Welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project with Lalo and Bob. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Let's jump right into that weekly dose of things you can disagree with. Take it away, guys. All right. Good evening and welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project. I'm your host. Almost said Robert. Almost did it, dude. Fuck.
It's a habit.
I know it's a habit. I'm your host, Bob, and it's Lalo. We're here.
Yeah.
We're here again tonight. It's been a busy fucking week for me. I'm tired as hell, but so much shit has happened, and what are we gonna do? We got to sit down and talk about it, right?
It's a new thing every day, so that's one good thing. We'll never run out of things to talk about.
Not as long as we live in the United States, anyway.
That's true.
So what's up, man?
Nothing much. Just been trying to keep up with everything, and like I mentioned before, I'm like in the process of moving, and like all the main stuff is done. It's just like all the little things that I go back and forth to get, or like setting up everything and like making it the house more like a home.
Oh
That
yeah.
expression. So
Oh, I've been in this
slowly
place
but
for
surely.
6 months, and I'm still doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a process, but we're getting there.
Yeah, well, when the last time I moved, my wife was sick and she was useless sick. So all she did was went to the couch. I moved her bed down to the new place and then she moved from the couch to the new bed and I took care of everything. It fucking sucked. Have you ever moved a couch by yourself?
Not by myself, but it's harder with two people, so let alone with one, I can imagine.
I just stood it up in the parking lot and used a dolly on it. And we just moved apartments. We moved from a two-bedroom apartment to a three-bedroom, and so it was just like across the parking lot. But god damn, man, what a mess! I don't want to do that again. So what about what? Let me ask you, man. We have had another one of those weeks in America where everything's everything's about one thing and then something else happens and blows up and everybody just going to forget. Are we just going to forget about last week? Is that what we're going to do again? Because Boulder happened. So Asian American violence is, yeah, whatever. That was last week. This week we got Boulder.
It seems like that's how it is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With like
Yeah.
every news cycle. Um, but yeah, it was crazy when I saw like the headlines, especially because the last shooting just it was like back to back, basically.
Yeah. And we haven't had one in a long time. And, I wanted to look the statistics up, but I didn't really get a time. But then again, there really haven't been many mass shootings in 2020 because of the pandemic. And now it's now got the shot, got the vaccine. So I guess everybody's cleaning their fucking guns now. I guess
It's kind of hard to have a school shooting when there's nobody at the schools. So silver lining of that, I guess.
that's right. But tomorrow they start back here, and they'll have be kids at my wife's school tomorrow for the first time since last March.
Yeah, I
So
think my girlfriend, she's a teacher here too at for high school in Bakersfield. So they started on Monday. So the same week too.
all right. Well, I think we're
So,
going to the red tier, whatever the hell that means.
yeah, today.
Was that today?
Yeah, we started today. And then they said we should be in the next one, which I think is orange by like April, mid-April or something like that.
Do we all get T-shirts or what?
We should. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that. Like I said, it's that process of everything's a process. So you just gotta
Yeah, yeah.
stick to it and tough it out, I guess.
I guess we'll all get orange T-shirts next month. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't even know what the hell that shit means. I just wear a mask until I think I'm just going to wear a mask until it's not in the news
I mean,
anymore.
it they mean something, but here in Bakersfield, it just doesn't mean shit because I mean, with the red tier, the one that we just got into, gyms are supposed to be open, and the gyms here have been open for months already.
Yeah, yeah.
Dining, we could do dine-in restaurants, and like there's been dine-in for weeks already. So
We never really paid attention to
it's
that, but
not, it's
the
never really
numbers didn't
important.
go up. So
That's true.
yeah,
So
Michigan, the numbers are rising in Michigan right now.
yeah, there's like a few, like a handful, or I think it was like 12 states where the numbers are going back up. So it's kind of that, the vaccine's out and people get that false sense of security.
Right.
Um, you know, they think just because it's out, it's like, okay, we're done with it. And, you still have to, it's not just enough to have a vaccine, but, enough people have to take it. And, the whole term like herd immunity. What most
Right.
people don't realize about that is for herd immunity to kick in, there has to be like a night, like a over 90% of people that are either like immune to it due to, the antibodies or the vaccine. So that's a big percentage. That's pretty much most people. So it'll
Well,
be a while before we reach herd immunity.
how many people? And I heard that like half of all Republicans are dubious of getting it, and at least a third of them aren't going to get it at all.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump told them to get it, so they got to
Well, that
listen
was
now.
magnanimous of him, wasn't it? Thanks, Donnie. We appreciate that.
It's like I think I texted you about it. It was like a robot short circuiting.
Right.
Doesn't know what to do with itself.
Well, he used that really flowery language again. It's a great vaccine. Get it.
Yeah. So yeah,
Well,
we'll
he
get
paid
there.
for it, so whatever. Well, he claimed that he claimed that he was the reason. So
As long as people take it, that's fine with me. I finally made my appointment. It's actually tomorrow, so I'll join the train, the
for your
hype train.
first one,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Lalo, where you been, man?
So I've just been busy, man.
You're
I
too
just been
busy to
hella
get the
busy.
vaccine. That's too fucking
Hella,
busy, dude.
I'm hella busy. And it just like doesn't cross my mind. Like I just keep putting it off. It's like it's like an oil change for me. I just always tell myself like, oh, I'll do it next week or on my next day off, and then that day comes in, I was like, oh, I'll just do it next time for sure. Next week for sure.
Next week for sure. I think mine was due in February, but see, don't laugh because I haven't had the mileage. So is it? I'm not sure how that works either. Is it when the date gets here, or the mileage, or both? It's like
It's
one or
usually
the
just
other.
mileage.
Oh well,
Yeah,
then hell
that's
with
the
it.
more
I got
important one,
I got like
unless it's
8.
been like sitting for years. But I doubt that's your case. So
No, it just the pandemic. You know,
people don't be driving.
I have a 42 gallon gas tank, and I get gas once a month.
Oh damn.
So, but that before the pandemic, I was getting gas all the fucking time because I was running my ass off constantly. Now I just like go to work and go home, go to work, go home, and then the store's right down the road. So the hell with it. Don't need
Yeah,
gas very often. Don't need to check the oil or any. I'm probably gonna blow that fucking motor now.
yeah, all those extra places we don't have to go to anymore. No movie theaters, no restaurant drives.
Oh God,
It's just
movies.
homework.
Just homework and work and go home.
Yeah.
So how's school, man?
Good. Been I'm almost done. So the semester is flying by pretty quickly. So this should be, or it's exciting for me at least. Finally done with BC
And then where you?
after so many years of like switching majors and
Yeah,
undecided and all this. I
yeah.
finally have like a clear pathway into what I want to do. So I'm probably going to go to CSUB after this.
All right.
Um, I'm already like doing all the paperwork and everything. So just like everything else, it's a process. But yeah, it's just adult life, man. It's a lot to keep up with. And then on top of that, you have to deal with the world around you. So
Yeah, absolutely. I started
still getting used to it.
I started college when I was 30. as a English major. I was going to be a teacher, and then I switched to history, and I was going to be a teacher, and then I switched to psychology, and I was going to be a psychologist, and then I switched to philosophy, and I was going to be a teacher again, and then after, I think it was 18 years of going to school and switching majors and fucking around. I finally just I gathered all my 250 some fucking credits together, and I was like, how can I do this? And I ended up with a degree in behavioral science, and then I went back and I want to finish my philosophy degree, but I haven't quite finished it yet. I need one more class.
That's good. I've always had that mindset of it's never too late to go back, especially when it comes to school. That's one of
Yeah.
those like things that, um, I mean, for the most part, regardless of your age, it's one of those like, quote unquote muscles that you could still work out and always improve.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That this 90-day life change challenge thing I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was just because I was so stale, I guess is a good word for it. I was so, I don't know. I just needed, I always wanted to learn how to play the guitar, and I wanted to exercise, and all these things kept coming into my mind. Like you said, like you're always just like, fuck, I got so much to do and so much I want to do on top of it. So I
Yeah.
just turned it into this 90-day challenge, and it is kicking my ass, dude. It's every single day from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, all day long. I'm keeping up with work, keeping up with, the challenge. My wife has been ill. I got to take care of my daughter. I got all the shopping. I got, just, it's just this constant movement. It's fucking discipline. I'll tell you that much to do something like this. It is discipline, and it has made me want to become a personal trainer. But that'll send me back to school again. And
Yeah. It's crazy the amount of things we have to balance. Like if you really sit down and think about it, the amount of things we have to balance, like just in daily life. And then,
yeah,
like I said, on top of that, like having to deal or worry about, the outside world and, world events and politics and shit like that. It's a lot to
yeah.
take in. It's a lot to process. And
And then I blog every day, and it always turns into this. I'm always like, I'm just going to do 500 words, and it turns. I've done 72 blogs now, and like 80% of them were over 2,000 words,
that,
like 5 fucking pages, where I just can't stop. I'm just trying to get this shit out. But then, it's like, when you want to do a podcast, and I'm like, fuck, I want to do a podcast right now. So
when everything's like fresh in your head and
yeah,
you got the
yeah,
wheels rolling.
yeah. And
Yeah.
people at work ask me all the time. They're like, how in the fuck do you do all this? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. I sleep,
Discipline. I
I
feel like
sleep
that takes
six,
a lot
seven
of
hours a
discipline.
night.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of putting your head down and bulling through it every day, every single day. But dude, I got 20, 28, 27 days to go.
That's impressive.
27 days. And I have been working out every day for 90. And then Kat, she she challenged me to 72 days of another challenge that I took on. So I'm doing it simultaneously, but it's like don't drink coffee and drink a gallon of water and do yoga. Okay, that's easy.
I'll squeeze that in somewhere.
Yeah, I'll squeeze that in. But you have to do the yoga outside. And then the little shit, she was like, I haven't started yet. I'm on day 15 and she hasn't started yet. Fucker.
Probably a good thing to let you know 2 weeks in.
She's always like, I'm on day one again. Because it was her challenge, and she challenged me, and she said, if you fail on any part of it, you go back to day one. I'm
Restart.
like,
Yeah.
all right. So I'm on day 14 or 15. I don't know. And she's on day one.
Yeah, you have too much confidence in other people's discipline. Most people aren't built like you, Robert. So,
Dude,
which is a good
I'm
thing.
just, I'm just, you know what? Seriously, all bullshit aside, I just really like helping people. I have I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I've got three people right now. One of them is in Tennessee and one of them's in West Virginia and one of them's here in Bakersfield. But they begin to ask me questions at 5 minutes after five. Hey man, what are we doing? I'm like, all right. But it just turned me into this personal trainer, and I don't know, man. I might do it. Fuck, I don't know. I'm only 55. Sometimes I think, oh Christ, I'm almost 56, but then I usually think I'm only 55. I got plenty of time. I could do personal training for 10 years, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's plenty of time to do anything.
Yeah, I specialize in people like the one of the people I'm working with has a traumatic brain injury, so she's working around trying to figure out how to begin to exercise again, but she can't keep her balance.
A good place to start right there.
Yeah, it's like just start on your back, kid. That's do leg lifts. You don't need balance for that. Man,
It's
I got to ask you. I and I know it's a real bad issue, and I did want to bring it up because we got people that we know. But when you bring up this Asian violence thing, I see it. It's so volatile and it's so nasty, and I get it. And and everybody was angry because it wasn't in the news and it wasn't being reported, and we didn't know about it. So then when it came to light with a big shooting, it comes to light now, and then all these others start to pop up. All these people are so fucking angry. I mean, I've had people angry at me because I had an opinion about it after it happened. So, my question here is how could I have a fucking opinion, not have an opinion about it? I didn't know. It wasn't being reported, and it's not like I'm, surfing online looking for Asian violence.
See, for me, I think it's a lot about perspective. Like for me personally, I did hear about a lot about those stories of like the Asian attacks and stuff like that because I mean most of my news I get from like some sort of social media, whether it be Twitter or like Instagram and Facebook. And I'm not saying like that's my like I don't like do all my fact checking and stuff like that on social media.
Thank you. I
Um,
hope not.
but like there's a lot of like news that comes out of places like that. I don't I think the days of like sitting down and watching the six o'clock news or I've never done that. That's never going to be me. Um, I have all these other like news sources that are reporting things like that. So I was aware of it, long before the shooting last week. It kind of just, like you said, it came into a climax last week with that shooting, and it kind of put it, in everyone's eyes. Whether you've seen it or not before, it brought it, to light to everybody. Um, so I can see why some people think, oh, it's being underreported, or it's not getting the attention it needs. But at the same time, like it is being, to some degree reported, and I just don't like when things like this happen. I hate when people try to like scapegoat or like point the finger at like a specific race,
Right.
um, like when it like I don't know like if you've seen it, but before a lot of like the Asian attacks, there was a lot of attacks of like street vendors, or like those people that like drive around their little like little carts and sell like corn
Right.
and like ice cream stuff like that. I don't know. Did you ever see something like that?
Yeah, I got them.
Did you ever see those like report? So
No, that's what I'm
that was the
saying.
thing
I
that
didn't know anything about that until the big shooting happened. Then I went back and started reading all the reports that were coming out and all the, and I rely a lot on facts and data,
yeah.
coming from reputable sources. And, when I see Donald Trump says something and Twitter erupts in 150%, increase in against Asians and all this shit. It, every time he said Kung flu, Twitter went crazy. Every time he said China virus, it went crazy. And then it began to build up and build up and build up. And then that shooting happened. And I attributed that uh, probably mistakenly, but from the way it was handled when I said it out loud. I said I attribute that to Donald Trump, and I kind of got attacked, and it was like, that wasn't Trump. It was happening long before that, and Trump didn't really do that. Yeah, he did. When you look at the fucking data, it says every single time he brought that shit up, it erupted on social
Yeah.
media.
And those, or go ahead, finish.
Yeah, and so when it erupts on social media, it bleeds into reality. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That social media uh, presence and effect, it, like you said, bleeds out into reality, and it causes these, real life attacks on people that, affect their lives. Um, and in many cases, permanently, like we saw last week.
Right.
Um, but I think, like, one of the things that I see a lot when people comment on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that on these attacks, it's like they want to say something, but they're afraid to say what they really want to say. And like, if we're being like honest and blunt, what they want to say is, before the shooting, what they saw was like a bunch of black people attacking Asians,
Right.
and they want to say that without sounding, you know, racist because of, the world that we live in today. Um, but here's the thing to me. Um, those things, like you said, it erupted every time Donald Trump like uttered the words, Kung flu or China virus. Those, like, that type of like racism, it's, the whole like white supremacy thing. So regardless of who's doing the attacking, when they, base those attacks on what Donald Trump's saying, they're subscribing, whether they know it or not, to the white supremacy like narrative,
Right.
whether it's a black man, a white man, another Asian person like doing the attack, they're subscribing to those ideas, whether they know it or not. Same thing with, when they were attacked like street vendors, you know, I remember in 2016 in the last election, the big issue was like immigration, that was the bigger issue. There was,
Yeah.
so and it was kind of the same thing that it is today. It was the whole like, you know, they're not sending their best, they're rapists, they're killers, all this stuff. So when you see people kind of like lash out based on those, on what they hear Donald Trump say, those views that he's spouting are, based on, the whole like white nationalist and white supremacy views. So regardless of who's doing the attacks on who, that's what they're subscribing to, and that's the base. That's the real problem.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
is those views. So when you say, you know, it's black people because, they're like overly aggressive and they're just inherently aggressive, um, you're feeding into that white nationalist, the white supremacist views, and that's what people don't realize.
Wow. I, I
Um,
I get it. I mean, it is so hard to be a white guy and talk about this shit. It really is. And every time you say, every time you say Asian person or Chinese person or a black person, everybody bristles. Even when
yeah,
you were just talking about it, I could feel myself emotionally like, oh, fuck, man. It's like, what's he
yeah.
going to say? And we're all afraid.
And
We're,
trust me, man, I know it's hard. Like, I know, as a, Mexican person,
oh my
like
God, you're Mexican? I didn't know, dude.
when you see, like, when I would see like the attacks on like on the street vendors, or like, those people that like they're just trying to make a living, trying to, earn their day,
Yeah.
and you see like that, like a vast majority, like a big percentage of the attacks are committed by, um, by people of a certain race, it's really hard to like, to hold back your prejudice, or like, to kind of, think things like, what it does look like it's, just black people, or, just this kind of person. It's hard to hold it back. But you have to take things, you can't take things for face value,
Right.
you have to really think of what's actually going on, why is this happening, and what is the root cause of it. And I think that's one of the things, like I've mentioned to you before, it's we ignore very often is the root causes of many issues.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Um, so when we see things like that, it's easy to point the finger at somebody else. The hard
Well,
part is, really thinking about what's really going on and what caused this and how can we change that.
man, I need to ask a question here, and it, call me ignorant if you want to. It doesn't matter because it's our podcast. So when you're talking about these street vendors, right?
Yeah.
These guys and gals, what neighborhoods are they selling their wares in?
Uh,
It ain't fucking
Probably like,
Rosedale.
right. Uh,
Okay, so the neighborhoods that they are in are predominantly black and Mexican.
right.
Okay, Mexicans aren't going to attack Mexicans usually.
And
So
there,
the thing
yeah,
is, it's a neighborhood thing, and it's a poverty thing, and it all it's not just race. It's just the way things are in that neighborhood.
right. And like I said, there's many like roots and like origins of like, poverty and like this like class, you know, classist, the way even like cities are built, how, uh, like, I don't know if you've ever thought about it this way, but in some sense, whether, even though it sounds crazy, like even something as simple as like the construction of a freeway can in itself be racist,
Uh huh.
just
Definitely.
because what it does to the infrastructure and what it does to the people that live near and around freeways. Um, that's something that I've been like reading into and like looking into lately, and how freeways throughout the history of the United States have been used to separate people from each other, and it's to separate certain types of people from other types of people, and certain neighborhoods from other types of neighborhoods. And when the system is created to like clump all these poverty stricken people together, there's like I said, poverty causes a lot of problems, and one of those is crime.
Yeah.
um, Crime is a result of poverty. So when you like trap all these people in the same neighborhoods, you're going to see high crime, and then you're going to see the finger pointing, and you're going to see the race wars and the gang violence.
Right.
So it kind of, it all goes back to like a main issue, and people just choose to ignore that.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it? I know you were talking about how the highways divide us. If you go right here in Bakersfield and you go down Stockdale, and Stockdale is very affluent. It's got restaurants and parks and churches and all kinds of things going on. There's the hospital right there at the 99 when Stockdale terminates and becomes Brundage. It turns into a fucking hood,
Yeah. So
right?
I mean, yeah,
I
that's a
mean, right
perfect
on the
example.
other side.
And there's many examples of things like that, even like building regulations and building codes. Do you see many 2, 3 story apartment complexes in Rosedale and West Bakersfield? No, they're all on the east side. You see a lot of single family homes in West Bakersfield. Why? Because they don't want, you know, 2 or 3 like subsidized housing apartment um, clumped up together, because they don't want certain type of people living there.
Right.
Um, so it's that kind of like, I don't know the term to describe it, but like subtle racism, or they're trying to be like subliminal and not obvious about it. But it exists, and it's not only here. It's in LA. It's in these big cities. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And like I said, it really it undermines the real issue, and it hides the real issues, and that's what people don't talk about. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna like name any names, but I mean, we've both seen in, like we know people that, one of their, quote unquote solutions to this whole like thing that's going on with Asian hate is like, to to take one of their words, like to arm themselves,
Right.
and to defend yourselves, which, I'm a big advocate for self-defense, and I think you should be able to defend yourself, especially when your life is threatened. But, I don't think a lot of people think that, okay, let's say somebody gets attacked. Like, the way I see it is like, let's say a street vendor gets attacked and they defend themselves and they end up like shooting, or like let's say they end up killing one of their, attackers. Guess what? That next day, that same street vendor has to go back to that same neighborhood and continue to do their job. Um, you don't think that's
Yeah.
gonna like put a target on their back every single day for, as
Absolutely.
long as they work there? Um,
Absolutely. I don't think violence is the answer to answer. I don't think violence is the answer to violence.
right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's never the answer to that. So we really have to, that's definitely one, like, it's like a short-term solution, for a long-term problem. We have to attack the actual hate and the actual, prejudice and the actual like message that's being given to us, um, to
You
really
know,
fix the issues that we have going on.
what you were talking about, I got two things here. One's what you were talking about, and then this. What we were talking about, that's historical racism is so blatant and so fucking obvious, and it is the building of a freeway and housing rules and all the shit. And the funny thing is we drive all these people into these poverty ridden areas, we cut off their fucking school funding, and then we go, aha, see how violent and poverty stricken and poor they are, look at them, and we point at them, and then the data comes out of those places, and the data looks like it's condemnation of them, but it's not their fucking fault.
Right.
I try to tell people all the time when they talk about the hood and the ghetto, it's like that is not their fault. They have been driven to that point, and then all their funding was taken away. Their schools are shitty, their roads are shitty, their houses are shitty. They can't get jobs, drugs are rampant. Even the fucking police don't like to go down there. What do you expect in those neighborhoods at that point?
Exactly. And it's a never ending cycle. Um, at least the
And
way
yeah,
it's set
born
up
into
right
poverty, born into crime, and then by the age of 8 or 9 years old, gangs are already signing these kids up, and it just seems like, oh my God. And they talk that they affluent people talk about them like they're animals.
now.
Like they
Yeah.
don't want, I don't go down there. Well, you know what, man? You should go down there. You should go down there and talk to them, because a lot of those people are very nice. They are. They're
Yeah.
nice and they're helpful, even in their poverty and their crime-ridden neighborhoods. It's it's just this veil that we have that we refuse to lift to tell the truth.
And for a lot of people, that live there, it's their only way of life, It's all they know. So it's kind of hard to, it's very easy to say, well, just don't steal, don't do this, don't do that, when that's all that surrounds you. We're a
Right.
product of our environments. We're affected by our environments more than anything else in the world. So
Yeah.
when we grow up in these neighborhoods, that's all you see, that's all you have around you. So it's kind of hard to, oh, just get good grades. It's kind of hard to get good grades in high school when your fucking home life is a piece of shit, and your parents are fighting. One of your parents isn't even there for you, or they got killed or they're in jail. Whatever it may be.
Right.
It's kind of hard to focus on everything else when
And you're
the world
raising all your
around you.
brothers and sisters because your mom
Yeah,
works, and yeah.
yeah. So it's when the world's falling apart, all around you. It's hard to to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, as they try to say. Um, And I think that's the main difference between um, liberals and like Republicans, or like me as myself as like a quote unquote like social democrat or socialist, whatever you want to call me. Um, I see things like poverty um, as a systemic issue. Therefore, it needs systemic solutions. Whereas Republicans see poverty as an individual issue with individual solutions. You know, it's up to you to get yourself out of there.
Right.
Um, the system shouldn't help you, or like the government shouldn't, give you all these handouts to help you. They should just work hard, and you'll get out. Where, yeah, there's a few people that get out, working hard, or, they get lucky, but a vast majority of them don't. And to use those very few people that do get out and to use them as like, see, they did it, so can
Yeah.
you. Like,
That's
it
what I
doesn't
was
work.
just getting ready to say. To
Yeah.
hold those, to hold that 0.0001% up as like an example, look at what they did. No, 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 no. That's not how it works here.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. So to me, that's one of the main issues between liberals and Republicans is because I mean we all have like the same basic, like if you just talk to people, most people have like the same basic. Do you know what an axiom is
No.
when it comes to thought? So like axiom is like your core, like core beliefs,
Okay.
like primal like beliefs,
Right.
So for example, like an axiom that I hold would be like, and I was watching a video about this, so I'm trying to remember everything that I saw about it. Um, it's like I believe that all living things, all conscious living things, um, should be maximized to be happy, to live well. So basically saying, I believe that human wellness should be maximized. So everything that I believe, all like my political beliefs, where I stand on things, you can trace back to an axiom that I hold to myself. So, for example, the example that I saw was, and one that I subscribe to myself would be like um, trans people and their trans healthcare should be covered by like Medicaid and like Medicare, and it shouldn't be considered like a cosmetic surgery. That's like a big issue with people too. They say, well, if people want to transition, like it should be, on their dime. And I don't believe that. I believe that if you want to transition as a trans person, um, it should be, one of those surgeries that's considered, for your well-being, whether it's like a heart bypass surgery or, stuff like that, that's comparable.
Right.
And people say, well, why? Why do you think that? And I'll tell them, well, because there's plenty of studies and plenty of data that shows that, uh, trans people that are, able to transition end up being happier, because they're not, they don't feel trapped in, the wrong body anymore. They feel more like themselves. And they're like, well, why is that important? And I tell them, well, because at the end of the day, I feel like human happiness should be maximized. So all the beliefs that I hold and all the things that I spew out of my mouth usually can be traced back to those core beliefs. And what if you really talk to people, a lot of people don't, like, they have the same core beliefs and then they vote against them, if that makes sense.
Oh, we see that every day in
So
Congress.
if you
Every
like talk
day.
to people, yeah, if you talk to people, about like minimum wage and unions and like better living conditions. So it's really like, yeah, I guess, that makes sense. Like $15 an hour is really not that, like, it's not a lot at all. That's, I mean, that's what, like $30,000 a year.
It's
Like
three
people are
gallons of
mad.
gas.
Yeah. Like people are getting mad over people making $30,000 a year. So, you talk to these people and, most of them do agree with most, like, like quote unquote progressive beliefs. And then they go and vote Republican, you know, just because of like some niche like issue or like some very narrow like thing that they like hold close to their heart. they ignore everything else and just vote Republican because of that. Or like how I was talking earlier about how we see the same issues just with different solutions, like individual versus systemic.
Right.
Um, so those kind of differences is what really like separate us into thinking the way that we do. And I mean, they think they're right, and obviously, I think I'm right. So it kind of it's that's what creates the whole back and forth between like political beliefs nowadays.
That's what that's why we vote. But we vote for people who say they're going to do things and then they don't. So,
And a lot of us are kind of caught in that. Have you ever heard of the is ought gap?
yes.
It's like the philosophy like saying thing.
Yes. Yes.
How it's very hard to know what the world ought to be like when all we know is what the world actually is.
What it is. I have a question for you. I have a question for you. Yeah, I agree with your proposition that happiness is important. Where does it stop? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm not against trans people, so let's not, whoever's listening here, let's not jump on me and say, aha, he's against trans people. I'm not. I am for happiness. But where does it stop, dude? Like, if I can show you some data that people who lose a lot of teeth would be happier if they could get their teeth back, but $24,000 to get implanted dentures. Should we have that paid for? I can show you data where women who get breast implants are happier. So if I give you bigger tits, you're going to be happier. So, but where do we cut this off and start calling it cosmetic? You called it, you said we need to stop calling trans surgery cosmetic. Where do we cut the cosmetic surgery off? Because if your postulate here is happiness is key, should we
Yeah,
give people teeth? Should we give people tits? Should we give people an ass lift? Should we give?
yeah, I get what you mean. Um, the thing I would say to that, and maybe I would kind of backtrack a little bit to instead of happiness, I would use the word like wellness, maximize human wellness.
Well,
Um,
isn't mental health wellness?
yeah,
If I have a false, if not false, but if I have a negative view of myself and I want, some kind of cosmetic surgery and I'm going to feel better about myself, then I'm going to be mentally whole after that. There is a wholeness to cosmetic surgery.
yeah, I see what you're
Unless you're
saying.
Kenny Rogers, then you kind of look Asian when you're done, and that didn't look right.
Yeah. Um, the thing I would say is, I
Or
think
that Versace chick. Oh
for
my God.
to me, like transition surgery when it comes to trans people, um, I just put it in a different like ballpark when it comes to your typical cosmetic surgery, like whether it be like breast augmentation or like, you know, like you said, ass lift, stuff like that. Just because, when it comes to,
I
the
can't believe
trans,
I said tits. Okay.
when it comes to like the trans community, like one of the biggest issues that is prevalent there is suicide rate.
Right.
And there's data and the studies have shown that people that are trans people that are kind of like trapped in that like state of they're not like comfortable with who they are and what they look like. The suicide rates for them are like sky high, man.
Right.
um so there's people that like you said really want that ass lift or really want bigger boobs. They're not going to go and kill themselves over that. Whereas if you
It's
get
not as prevalent. I see it,
right,
but people do anyway.
right. And but whereas if you have let's say a trans woman that hasn't had like their bottom surgery, so or they're not like allowed to go to the restroom that they identify with. that takes a toll, like a huge toll mentally on people, on them especially. And I just feel like that's just, I feel like it's a non-issue that people have created a big issue out of. People, there was like, I remember a while back when there were, the whole like bathroom argument that was going on, whether, people should be able to use the restroom that they identify with.
Right.
And like the argument against it was like, well, there could be like a pedophile man that says he identifies as a woman and go into, the little girl's restroom. I'm like, can that happen? Yeah. Does that ever happen? No. Like there's not one instance of that ever happening in the history of ever. So when that's like
But it sounds reasonable. Okay.
when that's like the basis of your argument and like the main thing, like it's just stupid.
What could happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like
just
what could happen in a far-fetched world where that's literally never happened before? Yeah, okay. And you're gonna base your whole argument on that? Like get the fuck out of here, dude. Like these are people's like lives and like their well-being that you're talking about, and like that's what you bring to the table.
well, first of all, you're going to have an unaccompanied child in a restroom, which is pretty rare anyway. And secondly, I don't see that happening. That's just not,
Yeah. And then like
I'm
just
not,
so much stuff like stems from that, and like tangents off like those type of arguments. Like have you heard of like the whole super straight trend that's going on right now?
the what?
Like there's like this like very
Super,
small group
super
of
straight.
dudes that identify as super straight. And it started off as a like a meme or something, or like a TikTok video. But basically what they say super straight is a male that is only attracted to biological females.
All right.
And I'm like, isn't that just called, being straight? But that like meme or that idea stems from transphobia, because what they're saying is, you could see like a trans woman and, you like, there's some like trans women that you look at and you wouldn't be able to even tell that they transition. So
Right.
they just look like, you're like what you would call a, quote unquote typical woman. And then, a lot of people are even, attracted to them and you might find them attractive. And then they tell you like, oh, I used to be a man. And then suddenly it's like, oh, I don't find you attractive anymore. Like part of me feels like you're lying. Like physically wise, they're still probably like, you're still probably attracted to them, but it's that like transphobia, like, thinking. And that's where that whole like super straight movement stemmed from. And I just
Super
think it's
straight.
like, I
All
think
right.
it's like the stupidest thing that I've seen in a while. But yeah, that's like the thing now. So if you see that anywhere, that's pretty much what it means.
All right.
But see, when I see people say that they're super straight, to me, I just translate that to they're like incels. So do you know what an incel is?
No.
An incel is it's that it starts
I'm
uh,
learning a lot of shit tonight.
it means involuntary celibate person.
An incel.
Yeah, involuntary celibate. So pretty much a dude that's like fucking weird looking and like no girls ever attracted to him, and like they couldn't get sex even if they paid for it, type of thing. So
You
when
mean
people say
guys
they're,
that beg for it on Facebook?
yeah,
Yeah,
so
okay.
that's what an incel is. So every time I see a dude like online or something say that they're super straight, I just lump them in that category, and I'm like, dude, you're a fucking loser. Get a job.
A lot of them have jobs already.
Forget a life. How about that?
Get a life. There you go. Oh my God, dude. Incel. All right. Let's see.
And incels tend to be like, your typical like sexually frustrated male that has like this, deep harboring like anger for women, and they just hate all women, and you
All
know,
right.
which I mean makes sense considering the fact that no women like wants to like be with them or like finds them attractive and stuff like that.
I always found it fascinating. I don't know if I've told you this before, but why not? I may as well say it. It doesn't matter. Um, I guy, especially guys are like, you know, I don't know, I'm not a homosexual. I'm like, have you ever tried it? You know, you gotta, you don't know if you like a fucking hot dog until you bite into one, dude. Come on. So
I always laugh at things like that when,
I
like,
got,
even like when they're eating like a corn on the cob or like a hot dog, they'll like look away or like try to hide it just so they don't seem, like they're gay. I'm like, how insecure do you have to be that you can't even eat a fucking hot dog normally?
do you
You're
want a
over here
banana,
like,
dude? Oh fuck no, I don't want a banana.
it's always
Uh,
those people that are hypersensitive to being called gay that kind of worry me where they
yeah.
stand. You know,
Well, like I said, when people call, I've been accused of being called gay, and I'm like, listen, when I was 35, 36, maybe, right in that age, I got drunk one night and made out with my best friend in the car, and then we kissed, and he was a gay man, and then when we stopped and we looked at each other, just burst out laughing. I was like, well, I know I'm not gay. So when you wanna get down to brass tacks here, I got proof, buddy. I'm not.
you don't knock it till you try it, like they say. So
That's right. Maybe if he'd have brushed his teeth first because he had that cigarette breath. And I'm sorry, Jeff. You're probably going to listen to this. It was the cigarettes, man. If you hadn't have smoked it, I might have ended up gay. I don't know.
missed the window.
I missed my window of opportunity because you smoked, bastard.
I think that's just a general turnoff for people, regardless of where you stand.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So, but yeah, so I mean, that's going back to what I was talking about earlier. I think that's the way people should really look at their political views and kind of like reflect on them when it comes to like what they believe and what they think and what they should
Oh,
support.
did you say by their you call it axioms?
Axioms. There's a few other terms for it, but that's basically what they are. It's like your core.
Principles.
Yeah.
Your principles.
Um, and
Truisms, I guess. Some shit
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And like there's I'll send you the video that I watched. This dude goes like way into more detail and explains it like 100 times better than I do.
Okay.
So you could just like understand what he was trying to convey. But he basically just talks about like the root of like his political beliefs and just political beliefs in general. For how people come to what they think. He talks about like normative and descriptive statements
Right.
and the difference between them and how a lot of people kind of get them confused.
Yeah,
And
send it to me. I'm interested in it because that same core belief that you have about living creatures, I, it led me to become a vegan.
mhm,
Yeah, because I believe that all living creatures have a right to be what they are. It's like I'm just being a fucking fish. Let it be a fish. Let it be a
yeah,
cow. Let it be a chicken. Don't fucking kill it and eat it. That
yeah,
just seems wrong to me. That to take something's life when I don't have to take something's life in order to survive. Just because I like hamburgers, I'm going to go ahead and
yeah,
turn my I'm just going to turn my face as they kill it, and I'm only going to think of it as a package in the store. That's
yeah.
where that axiom led me.
And I mean, obviously, I don't like subscribe to it like 100% just because I feel like anybody that did would like like you said be vegan too.
Yeah.
Um, but like I always find it funny when people like I remember I had this conversation with a few friends a few weeks ago. We were talking about like just different types of meat and like exotic meats. And I don't know how that conversation came by, but uh, at some point they said something about like, oh, have you ever tried like, they said, oh, have you ever tried alligator or like, lamb or blah, and then someone said like horse or something like that. And one of my friends was like, no, like how can you eat a horse? Like that's cruel, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're eating a fucking cow. Like people have cows as pets, like cows are one of like the smartest
Yeah.
animals like there are. They're basically like big ass dogs.
Yeah, they're really kind and caring and loving, and they get attached to people. But you know, when you want to show somebody a video of that, they don't want to look at it.
Yeah,
They don't want to consider that that cow is smart. They just want to consider that cow that's nothing I want to pet. I
yeah.
just want to eat it. But
We've
don't eat
just
a
been
horse,
so
man, because that's weird and cruel.
we've just been so like desensitized, and we don't associate when we see a cheeseburger or like a chicken breast. We don't associate that with like a pet or something that has emotions or feelings. We just
Right.
think, oh, it's when you think of chicken, you think of usually you'll probably think of like fried chicken or like chicken breast or
Right.
wings. You don't think of a literal chicken you know with the beak and the feathers and all that. So
Yeah, because we've sanitized it. So if you watch these documentaries about veganism and animal cruelty, all those slaughterhouses are way out in the middle of fucking nowhere
where you can't see all
where you
everything
can't
that
see
happens.
them. You can't see what's happening. And you, when you drive by a dairy, if you take a real good look, the cows are standing in shit up to their own knees. And it's like, good Lord, what are we doing here to these animals? But they're over there. We're not, we only drive by those things occasionally.
We only
And
like dogs and
usually
cats.
we're like, hey, look, a cow. And then we just keep going.
It's
If you
probably that cow's
stop,
last day alive.
yeah, if you stop and the cow has sores on it and it's miserable and it's standing in its own shit, but you're 200 yards from that cow. You're like, look, a cow.
Yeah. People sound so surprised because most of the time they're like in their cages and in their pens as compared to like out in the field.
Cage free. You know what that means?
They have like 2 feet of space,
They
if
have
that.
access to go outside, but they don't necessarily ever go outside.
Yeah. I remember I seen I think it was like Super Size Me 2.
Yeah, that's where I got her from. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" He like put up a little piece of fence outside and he's like he chases them out there and they just run back in like, "Fuck, I don't know what that is. I've never been out there."
Yeah. I remember I saw that too. I was fucking dying. But I mean, I saw that and I'm still over here eating like chicken McNuggets and stuff like that. So I appreciate the film and I get what they're trying to say, but I
But they're
think for a lot of people
delicious.
they're just too deep into the hole.
You
But
are you're deep in it, asshole.
but when it comes to humans, I'm super super thoughtful, and humans
Yeah.
definitely deserve
Yeah, I have more empathy for chickens than I do people, so
I was reading a book and a lot of people they tend to have more empathy towards their pets um, than versus like they tend to care more about their pets than they do about themselves. There'll be people that get their pets like this like super organic clean food, and like they'll take them
yeah.
to the vet whenever they limp for like half a second, straight to the vet.
Yep.
But when it comes to themselves, they'll like treat their body like shit or like treat themselves like shit. um and
That's
some
funny.
people think that it stems from like this like subconscious belief or subconscious knowing that pets are more like what's the word, like they're incapable, not incapable, but just like without us they would, a lot of them would die. You just get your dog or your cat and you like throw them out in the street, chances are it won't survive long.
Yeah,
uh,
most of them wouldn't.
yeah, so we hold our pets to like these higher standards than we do ourselves, which is kind of weird when you think about it, because I mean if you don't take care of yourself, then how are you going to take care of your pet? If you die, who's going to take care of your dog?
You are still going to take care of your dog because it's going to eat your fucking face before they find you, and that's cool. That's all right. Yeah, I wouldn't mind if Brownie
Yeah.
ate my face when if I keeled over in here and it stayed alive for 2 weeks. I'd be fine.
See,
I
and
don't.
that just stems from the belief that like pets are just on this higher pedestal than we are.
I don't need
That's
my
why they say
face.
all
I'm
dogs go to
dead.
heaven. That's why all dogs go to heaven. and just some humans do.
Well, I never have, you know, off on a little tangent here. I never have worried about what's going to happen to me after I die. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
You really see
My,
for me, especially as of late, just because like in the past few years, I feel like death has been more prevalent in my life.
yeah,
Like I've had a few family members like pass away,
sure.
whether it was unexpected or kind of like you saw it coming. Um, I've had a few like I've been to a few funerals these past few years, and it just like it's just got me like thinking like how it's very like cliche that they say life is fragile and all that, but
Right.
it's kind of like been shoved into my face like how really fragile. Like we're lucky to like even survive every single day. Like there's so many fucking ways we could die. Like I could literally die every single morning on my way to work.
Yes, sir, you could. Yes, sir,
And
you could. And
it's crazy.
luckily,
And it's just crazy to me like how easy it is like to die. And that just got me thinking like, what really happens if like when we die. And the inner like 6-year-old boy that was raised Catholic wants to believe, that's the part of me that does want to believe like, that there's some sort of afterlife.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
because, I've also thought
You're going
like
to be a long time in purgatory, though, bro.
hey, at least I'll be somewhere. Cause see, what I've thought is like, what if it just like ends? Like, do you just like, does it just go black? And like, what happens to your consciousness? Like, is it just like falling asleep and never waking up? And to me, that's like, I don't know if it's just because like I get in my head too much or something, but like part of me think that's like terrifying.
Really?
Like, there's no security of
Oh,
what,
man. I feel
like
a
that's
podcast coming on
like
then.
that's the one thing like humans, like no human in the history of the world knows like what happens after you die. Like people, you can't die and then like come back. I mean, there's those people that like die for a few minutes
Right,
and then they get resuscitated. And I hear a lot of their stories that they just say that they don't even remember.
right.
Or there's like varying stories that to them it was like they were asleep, or to them like they saw the bright light and all this. But there's like no definitive answer. And like I feel like that's something very hard for like science to prove, or to like tell people. So
Well,
to me,
I don't know what happens.
I want to say I'm so much like scared of dying. I'm just scared of like what happens after, if anything.
I just
Um,
don't want it to hurt. I'm
I heard people
serious.
shit themselves when they
I'm
die.
serious, dude. I've been in car accidents. I've fallen out of planes. I've been, all kinds of bad shit has happened to me. I've lost a child. And the only thing I can ever think of is I don't want to be like trapped in a car that's on fire and burned to death or some shit like that. That doesn't sound pleasant. But
You
as
don't want to
far
cross
as
the thing.
I don't know what happens after I die, but like I said, when I die, this thing that you call Bob, this body, I don't care. Give it to necrophiliacs. I don't fucking need it anymore. It's like,
Yeah. I'm just so curious as to like what happens, and the not knowing, like I
yeah,
said, kind of scares me. And I mean, it goes back to my belief that that's what, kickstarted like all of religion, is people not knowing.
yeah,
Uh,
fear. the
yeah.
the fear of natural wonders like the moon and the sun and the rain, that there had to be a cause for that, and that's just science, but they didn't know that at the time. And then that that general fear that we all share. I
Yeah.
wonder what happens to that. What happened to Gronk? He's dead, but where is he?
Hmm.
Yeah,
So it's just like the unknown, you know.
yeah.
It's to me, it's at least at my current stage of life, it's more on the scary side, on the terrifying side. Than I'm not like at peace with it yet. I'm sure I'll
I,
get there at some point, but
I was there. And then, now I'm in that stages where it's like, yeah, whatever, I don't know. But when you're like 90, you wake up every morning, you're like, fuck, I woke up again.
yeah. And like I said, I just see it more. It's like my like I've come more to grip with like my own mortality. And it's like a constant reminder to me, like everywhere I see. whether it be, like I said, like the family members that have passed away, or like I remember I was talking to my dad like a few weeks ago, and he was talking about like me and my brothers, or me and my brother and my sister, and like how like big we've gone just because from like growing up and stuff. And he like told me, he's all like, if I never get the chance to tell you, like, I just want you to know, like, I'm proud of you guys and all that stuff. And like, just, just by those words alone, like, if I never get the chance to tell you again, like, it's just scary. Like, it kind of just brings everything, right up in your face. And, it's not like my dad has like cancer or like he's
Right.
dying or anything, he's a healthy, like 56-year-old man. He's probably like the healthiest. You and him are probably the healthiest, like people I know. Um,
So I'm really scared of dying, and I'm overweight, and I eat cheeseburgers, and I never work out, and I drink too much, and
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know, just as of late, like these past few years, I think as I get older, it kind of becomes more like death becomes a more prevalent part of your
sure,
life. And I've like sometimes I'll just be alone and start thinking to myself, like, what happens when I'm like fucking hella old and all my friends that I talk to now are like dead,
yeah,
and I'm like the last one of my friends to be alive? Or like what happens if like my future wife like dies and I'm by myself for like the last 5-10 years of my life? Like that shit's, I mean, to me, it's scary, at least right now.
you're a morbid motherfucker, aren't you?
I get in my like phases, I guess. I'm just
I
like
think
thinking
about
of
it.
random.
I think about it all the time. Is as philosophy and existentialism is rampant with death. It's like being and not being, and what does it mean not to be? And you
Yeah.
talk about it philosophically. I don't know. I've watched, I don't know, probably a dozen people die in my life, and always I I'm really looking forward to that last 7 minutes. Not that I want to die. Not at all. We're not doing a CSSRS on me or anything. Not that I want to die, and I'm not making a plan. But they talk about that last 7 minutes when your brain burns up that last 7 minutes of oxygen before it dies. There's some shit that goes on in your head that I got
Yeah.
to see. That I'm curious about. But as far as dying, I don't worry about it right now. It's closer than I'm closer than you, and we are all right on the verge all the time.
Exactly. So it's what, have you ever seen those things where people say like, would you want to know like when and like how you die? And like I flip flop on that answer like so many times. It's like
Depends on your mood.
yeah, pretty much. Like I would want to know like, all right, you've reached like the halfway mark. So better make the most of the next, how many years you got left.
All right, dude. Well, let me give you a little bit of motivation. You ready?
Go for it.
You don't know. You might be the halfway mark. And if you did know, would you change? You're like, well, hell yeah, I'd change because it's the halfway mark. Well, if you don't fucking know, why aren't you changing? Because you may have passed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
everybody needs to get busy living is basically what's going on here.
It also depends on how you view life. Like if you want to, some people are like, well, fuck it. I love, fucking eating like shit and, doing all this. Like that makes me happy. I want to, if I'm going to die like that, then I want to die happy. And then there's other people that are like, I want to live as long as I possibly can. So I'm going to
That's
fuck.
just lazy. Lazy people say shit like that. Unmotivated,
Like,
lazy, dumb
I don't
people.
want to die hungry. So
Well, I don't want to die on fire. Can we fucking fix that up?
I think everybody can agree on that.
Well, you need to get busy, dude. Because I can. How are you? 26?
Yeah. 26.
Yeah, I remember being 26. God damn. Well, at least I'm not. What was that? The celibate. What was that?
And so
Yeah, at least I'm not an incel.
that would be a very shitty way to die.
Alone and masturbating.
Mhm.
All right, dude. This has been an interesting conversation, but we need to come back because we need to talk about more about this fear of death that we all have. That's a very interesting topic. Should get dues back in on that one.
I'm down for more what is it?
Philosoph- philosophical
Philosophical. Yeah, there you go.
philosophical inquiries.
Yeah,
All right,
I'm
man.
down.
Well, man, you ready?
Yeah.
Well, it's been a wonderful evening. I appreciate you, man. This is Bob.
And Lalo.
And you know what, folks? We said some things about race in here. We said some things about poverty. We've said some things about politics. We said some things about guns. Take it all with a grain of salt because, Lalo and we're probably thoroughly fucking wrong.
I like how, I mean, just like a FYI to the audience. Like we don't like really plan out the podcast, but we kind of just have some like, main ideas that we say
Yeah.
we want to talk about. And I feel like half the time we like start on that and then we just end up on a completely different thing. But I like that. I like that it's not, scripted and it's like
Right.
whatever like
It's
gets
raw.
said. Yeah, whatever gets said during the episode.
Yeah.
Like
And that's
build
why
on-
I say at the end of every episode, don't stress this, man. Don't fucking get down on us because we're saying it. It's just our opinions, and opinions are opinions. We're probably thoroughly fucking wrong, right?
Yeah.
That's the way it is. I'll see you later, man.
Later.
You have now experienced the Thoroughly Wrong Project with your podcast hosts, Lalo and Bob. We can now be found on Pandora Radio, Apple Podcasts, Podium Podcast, or by searching the Thoroughly Wrong Project to locate our YouTube channel. You can contact us directly by email at thoroughly-wrong@gmail.com or just leave a comment on any of our platforms. Until next time, thanks for spending your valuable time with us, and remember, always speak up and never be afraid to be thoroughly wrong.